For 45-year-old Tina SATCHWELL, home was meant to be her refuge, a space she shared with the man she had trusted since she was just a teenager. But on the morning of March 20th, 2017, that refuge became the epicenter of a chilling mystery. Tina vanished without a sound. No goodbye, no packed bags, no digital trail. It was as if she had been erased from her own life. At first, her husband, Richard SATCHWELL, insisted she had simply walked away, that she needed time, space, clarity. But as days bled into weeks, and weeks turned into years, that story began to crumble. Investigators couldn't find a single footprint of Tina outside the walls of her home. No airport logs, no bank activity, no phone calls, nothing. For 6 years, the case twisted through dead ends and false hopes, while Richard stood at the center of the storm, speaking to cameras, changing his story, and weaving a narrative that never quite made sense. And then, in October 2023, a discovery beneath the staircase of their small home revealed the truth Richard had hidden in darkness, truth wrapped in plastic, buried in concrete, and left to decay in silence. This is the story of a woman whose disappearance was no accident, and how the secret she could never speak finally forced its way to the surface. Tina SATCHWELL was born on a chilly November day in 1972 in the small town of Fermoy, County Cork. From the very beginning, her life was marked by quiet mysteries and family secrets, threads of her story woven with both love and confusion. Raised by a woman she called mother, only to discover in her early teens that this figure was in fact her grandmother, Tina had to navigate the unsettling truth of her own identity. Mary Collins, the woman she had known as her mother's friend, was her biological mother. For a young girl, this revelation was seismic. It altered the way she saw herself, her place in her family, and even the relationships she held most dear. Tina's relationship with her half-sister, Sarah Howard, was a complicated one. The sisters had shared laughter, secrets, and youthful camaraderie, but the discovery of her parentage had introduced tension, resentment, and long stretches of estrangement. They would go years without speaking, the weight of hidden truths pressing like a shadow over every interaction. And then there was the death of her brother, Tom, in 2012, a tragedy that tore at her heart and left a void that nothing could fill. Through loss, discovery, and familial upheaval, Tina carried a quiet resilience, a determination to find joy and stability in a world that often seemed unpredictable and unfair. It was in England, in the town of Colville, near Leicester, that Tina's path crossed with Richard SATCHWELL. She was just 17, a young woman still discovering who she was, while Richard, for years her senior, was already shaping his vision of what he wanted in life. They met, and, almost immediately, Richard became infatuated. According to him, he knew from the very first moment he saw her that she would be his wife. In October 1989, at the age of 23, Richard proposed. By the following year, on Tina's 20th birthday, they were married in Oldham, England. Despite the joy this day should have symbolized, the wedding itself was marked by absence. Richard's family chose not to attend, disapproving of the union for reasons known only to them. Yet, in Tina's eyes, this was a beginning, a promise of life together, filled with love and companionship. Richard SATCHWELL presented himself as quiet, unassuming, even overweight. But behind his subdued exterior lay a complexity that would later reveal itself in sinister ways. He referred to Tina as his trophy wife, a phrase that lingered like an echo, hinting at control, possession, and a need to dominate the narrative of their life together. The couple eventually returned to Ireland, settling back in Fermoy, and then moving to Youghal, a coastal town that promised tranquility and anonymity. On the surface, Tina's life in Youghal appeared idyllic. She loved fashion, makeup, jewelry, and the small joys that made life feel vibrant. Friends and acquaintances described her as bubbly, charming, and full of laughter. Her home was also shared with the creatures she cherished most: her dogs, Heidi and Ruby, and her parrot, Valentine. Ruby, a small chihuahua, had been bought after the devastating loss of her brother Tom, a gift of companionship to soothe the pain that never fully faded. Tina's animals were more than pets. They were children in her eyes, sources of unconditional love and comfort in a life shadowed by the complexities of human relationships. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, subtle cracks were forming. Those closest to Tina began to notice the patterns of control and dominance exerted by Richard. Her half-sister Sarah described the marriage as odd, a relationship marked by obsessive behavior and coercive control that stretched over decades. Tina confided in Sarah that she felt trapped, powerless to escape a man who could follow her to the ends of the earth if she tried to break free. These were not the complaints of a fleeting quarrel or temporary strain. They were the words of someone living under the weight of constant manipulation and fear, bound to a life that increasingly seemed like a gilded cage. Richard's history offered glimpses into the patterns of his life. Minor convictions peppered his past: a week in prison for larceny, a few days for the fraudulent use of a motor tax disc, a month for social welfare fraud. These incidents, seemingly minor at first glance, suggested a willingness to bend rules, to manipulate circumstances for personal gain, a trait that would later intersect tragically with Tina's fate. Financial instability, obsessive behaviors, and a controlling personality formed a backdrop against which Tina's life unfolded. The couple's move to Grattan Street in Yoel in 2016 marked a new chapter. The house was modest, unassuming, a place where they could retreat from the scrutiny of neighbors and the town. Tina continued to nurture her small world, tending to her dogs, keeping her home in order, and engaging in the simple pleasures that brought her joy. Friends who visited described her as a woman who lit up a room, someone whose laughter was infectious and whose presence was comforting. She was meticulous in her appearance, stylish and elegant, yet approachable and warm. But in this quiet domesticity, the shadows of control lingered. The small gestures of Richard's dominance, the decisions he made unilaterally, the monitoring of her movements, the subtle pressures were like threads slowly tightening around her life. Coercive control is often invisible to outsiders. It hides behind routine, behind seemingly mundane decisions. For Tina, this control was relentless, a constant reminder that her autonomy was never truly her own. Her family would later testify to the ways Richard monitored, manipulated, and restrained her, creating an environment where fear and obligation coexisted with love and dependence. The early days of their marriage, once filled with youthful promise, had gradually become a complex web of emotions: love, fear, dependence, resentment, and manipulation intertwined, creating a relationship that to an observer might have appeared normal, even affectionate. But those closest to Tina knew otherwise. Her life was punctuated by moments of quiet anxiety, the feeling that she was constantly navigating a minefield, unsure of which steps might trigger conflict or anger. Tina's personality, however, remained radiant. Despite the constraints of her marriage, she cultivated friendships, nurtured her pets, and maintained a sense of joy in the everyday. Her love of fashion, her meticulous grooming, and her laughter were not just hobbies or traits, they were acts of resistance, a way to assert her individuality in a life otherwise overshadowed by control. She was a woman of strength, subtly defiant in her pursuit of personal happiness, even within the walls of a house that had begun to feel like a prison. As the SATCHWELLs settled into Yoel, their home became a stage for the interplay of public appearance and private reality. To outsiders, they were a quiet, unremarkable couple. Richard's controlling tendencies were hidden behind the facade of domestic normalcy, and Tina's charm, warmth, and vivacity masked the tension beneath. The town saw a smiling, friendly woman, devoted to her pets and attentive to her surroundings, while the darker currents of her marriage remained invisible to all but those who knew her intimately. It is in this context that the events of March 2017 must be understood. Tina SATCHWELL's disappearance did not occur in isolation. It was the culmination of decades of complex interpersonal dynamics, of control, subtle threats, and psychological entanglements that had been carefully woven into the fabric of her life. The charming, meticulous woman who walked the streets of Yoel with her small dogs in her arms was, in truth, a person navigating the tension between public image and private reality, between love and fear. By the time she was last seen alive on Sunday the 19th of March 2017, Tina had already lived a life marked by extraordinary resilience in the face of profound challenges. Her story, tragically, would not end with the life she had built, but with the shattering revelation of betrayal and violence that lay just beneath the surface of the home she had shared with the man she had trusted. In understanding Tina SATCHWELL, one sees a woman defined not just by the circumstances of her death, but by the vibrancy of her life, her laughter, her compassion, her devotion to family and pets, and her quiet struggle to maintain autonomy in a world where love and fear had become dangerously intertwined. Her disappearance would shake a town, confound investigators, and ultimately expose the chilling truth that even the most seemingly ordinary lives can conceal extraordinary darkness. By the morning of Monday, the 20th of March 2017, the quiet town of Yoel carried on with its usual rhythm, oblivious to the storm about to engulf it. Tina SATCHWELL, the woman known for her warmth, her laughter, and her meticulous attention to life's small joys, was missing. Her last public appearance had been the day before, at a car boot sale in Carrotwell, attended alongside her husband, Richard SATCHWELL. Friends, neighbors, and passers-by would later recall her cheerful demeanor that day, unaware that it would be the last time she would be seen alive. 4 days passed before Richard officially reported Tina missing to Gardaí at the Fermoy station. At 7 p.m. on the 24th of March, he recounted a story of a routine morning turned inexplicably strange. He claimed he last spoke to her at 10:30 a.m. on the 20th of March and had driven 30 kilometers to Dungarvan to buy fish at her request. Returning around noon, he said, Tina was gone. Gone without a note, without her belongings, without a hint of warning. From the outset, investigators sensed inconsistencies. Tina had not passed through any Irish or UK port, her passport remained untouched, and her phone and bank accounts had seen no activity. The notion that she had simply left was contradicted by tangible evidence or the absence of it. Gardaí quickly ruled out travel abroad. Her disappearance was confined to the streets, the homes, the quiet corners of Yoel, yet no trace could be found. Richard offered a flurry of explanations, each more implausible than the last. First, he suggested she was depressed, troubled by family disputes, seeking time away to get her head straight. Later, he implied she might have left for the UK, possibly with family assistance, a claim promptly dismissed by Tina's relatives. He even alleged that Tina had taken 2 suitcases containing €26,000, money from the sale of a house. But investigations revealed that their finances were in chaos. The couple had been operating in overdraft, with no windfall to justify such a sum. Meanwhile, Gardaí launched a meticulous investigation. Searches of the SATCHWELL home in June 2017, technical examinations, and door-to-door inquiries turned up nothing of evidential value. August saw the Garda Water Unit and the Irish Coast Guard combing Yoel Harbour. The following year, based on a tip, the woods near Castle Martyr were scoured. A blonde woman, matching Tina's description, had allegedly been seen entering the forest with another person, only to be left behind. Detection dogs, no-fly zones, and exhaustive search protocols yielded nothing. Interpol was engaged, and the net widened, but Tina remained elusive. As months passed, public attention intensified. The story of a woman disappearing from her own home in a small Irish town gripped the nation. Media outlets covered the case extensively, and Richard SATCHWELL became a central figure in the narrative. He engaged with reporters, offering himself as the grieving husband, desperate for answers, participating in television interviews and radio broadcasts, seemingly willing to do anything to generate leads, yet always deflecting suspicion from himself. Richard's media appearances were marked by careful orchestration. On RTE Acute's Crime Echo in June 2017, he appeared with Tina's aunt, emphasizing the public appeal and claiming thousands of tips had been received. Yet his statements were contradictory and opaque. By January 2018, he was on prime time, alongside Tina's cousin and investigating Gardaí, presenting a controlled narrative that painted him as cooperative, desperate, and concerned. He offered reasoning for why Tina might have left, and yet remained unwilling to provide evidence of her departure. In March 2018, during an interview on The Ray D'Arcy Show, Richard spun stories that ranged from Tina walking a dog on a Dublin beach to living with friends or relatives in England. He described her as independent, hinting she had simply disappeared of her own accord. He even suggested she had requested his UK national insurance number months before vanishing, framing the narrative as if she had planned her disappearance carefully. When pressed on the idea of a lie detector, he declined, claiming fatigue and illness. But behind the media narrative, subtle contradictions emerged. Richard was observed selling Tina's belongings, particularly her clothes and footwear, at car boot sales in Blarney, Rathcormac, and Doneraile shortly after her disappearance. He offered multiple explanations for why he was selling her items: illness from mold in an old house, travel to England for treatment, raising money for repairs, or her supposed permission to sell them. To anyone paying close attention, these stories were inconsistent. often contradictory, and increasingly investigators noted a pattern. Richard's accounts of Tina's behavior and their relationship shifted with each retelling. He painted her as prone to violent outbursts, claiming she had attacked him hundreds of times over their 30-year marriage. He described incidents where she supposedly threw lamps or physically assaulted him, even recounting events from the mid-1990s when he claimed he had contemplated suicide after alleged abuse. These statements, examined in hindsight, were self-serving and designed to cast Tina in a negative light, framing her as volatile while deflecting attention from his own actions. Financial investigations revealed another layer of deception. The SATCHWELL's joint bank account showed constant overdrafts, contradicting Richard's claims of substantial cash reserves. Funds had been transferred through Western Union, yet money that should have existed in liquid form was nowhere to be found. Emails, text messages, and online activity revealed patterns of obsessive spending on exotic animals and charities that never delivered, including hundreds of text messages regarding marmoset monkeys. Payments were sent over years, but no monkeys arrived. Evidence of these unusual financial behaviors would later suggest a man comfortable with manipulation, deception, and carefully constructed narratives. Every lead that emerged for Tina seemed to dissolve into dead ends. Sightings in other towns, the supposed dog walk on a Dublin beach, or even the mysterious journeys to England, none could be verified. The Gardaí pursued every avenue, every hint, every whisper, but Richard's stories obscured the truth. He remained, in public view, the grieving, concerned husband, but those familiar with coercive control and obsessive manipulation could sense a darker reality lurking beneath the surface. In the background, the town of Yoel grew uneasy. Neighbors whispered, friends speculated. Every unanswered question amplified tension. Tina's friends recalled how she had once confided fears about Richard's controlling nature, yet few imagined such a violent outcome. The town, small and interconnected, felt the weight of uncertainty, the anxiety of a disappearance that had no clear explanation. Even months later, Richard's narrative remained public, his presence in the media carefully managed, his interviews calculated. He was observed selling Tina's possessions, attending car boot sales, and spinning stories to anyone who would listen. Each explanation was more elaborate than the last. Each attempt to construct plausibility eroded by contradictions and evidence that subtly, invisibly, undermined him. Authorities, meanwhile, expanded their investigation. Mobile phone records, bank statements, and CCTV footage painted a picture of a man whose movements and claims were increasingly at odds with reality. Questions arose about his alibi on the day Tina disappeared. His claim of driving to Dungarvan to purchase fish was scrutinized against objective data. Each new piece of information subtly eroded the story he had so carefully constructed. The narrative was now a complex puzzle. A woman vanished, a husband spinning tales, a town watching, media engaged, and investigators piecing together fragments of truth. Yet for 6 years, the picture remained incomplete. Tina's life had been meticulously erased from the public sphere, replaced by rumor, speculation, and false trails. Every car boot sale, every media interview, every shifting story added layers of obfuscation, making it impossible to discern fact from fabrication. Throughout this period, the tension built, both within the investigation and in the hearts of those who loved Tina. Her family, unable to accept that she might simply be gone by choice, fought to keep her memory alive while pressing authorities for answers. Each tip, each reported sighting, became a glimmer of hope, yet each investigation yielded nothing. The absence of Tina was not just physical, it was an emotional void, a haunting presence in the lives of those who had loved her. And as the years stretched on, Richard SATCHWELL remained in public view, offering a calm, composed persona that masked the growing suspicion of those who watched carefully. He declined lie detector tests, rejected certain media requests, yet was quick to present his version of events whenever convenient. It was a performance, practiced and controlled, designed to maintain the illusion of innocence. As the months became years, investigators began to scrutinize every detail: financial irregularities, shifting statements, inconsistencies in Richard's accounts. The threads, previously scattered, slowly began to converge. Yet even with this growing focus, Tina's fate remained a mystery, hidden beneath the surface of ordinary domesticity. A small, unremarkable house in a quiet town had become the epicenter of a darkness no one could have anticipated. The stage was set for a revelation so shocking, so chilling, that it would shatter the town of Yoel and expose the terrifying truth. Beneath the seemingly ordinary floorboards of the SATCHWELL home, the answers waited, concealed for 6 long years. The truth of Tina's fate, hidden in plain sight, would emerge not through a sudden confession or a random discovery, but through painstaking investigation, relentless forensic scrutiny, and the unyielding persistence of those determined to find justice. It was during this painstaking review that detectives noticed something peculiar in the photographs of the SATCHWELL home taken before and after Tina's disappearance. Beneath the stairs, a new brick wall had been built, small, inconspicuous, yet anomalous. It was subtle enough to escape casual observation, yet unmistakable to trained eyes. The realization sent a shiver through the team. Could it be? Could Tina, missing for 6 long years, have been hidden beneath their own stairs all along? On the 10th of October 2023, the investigation escalated. Tina's disappearance was officially upgraded to a murder inquiry, and Richard SATCHWELL was arrested on suspicion of murder. He was released the following day, but the net had tightened. Forensic specialists, including Dr. Niev McCulloch, a renowned forensic archaeologist, were brought in to examine the property. Ground-penetrating radar, metal detectors, and cadaver dogs were deployed in a careful, methodical search. At first, the radar revealed nothing, but a cadaver dog showed clear interest at the base of the stairwell, pawing and scratching as if sensing something buried beneath. Gardener Brian Berry, observing the search, noticed the brickwork beneath the stairs. Poorly constructed, uneven, and suspiciously new. The linoleum floor covering was lifted, revealing concrete that differed in color from the surrounding surface. The team realized they were standing over a carefully concealed grave. A jackhammer was brought in, and after breaking through the concrete, black plastic was discovered. Beneath it lay the skeletal remains of Tina. The body was formally identified on the 13th of October 2023 using dental records. She had been buried in a shallow grave, wrapped first in a blanket, then in black plastic sheets. Her arms were crossed in front of her, legs folded back over her thighs. She wore tartan-style pajamas and a dressing gown. In the pocket of the gown was her wallet containing her public service card. The positioning of her body, the care taken to conceal her, and the meticulous wrapping spoke of a methodical, deliberate effort to hide her existence. Silent testament to cruelty disguised as domestic normalcy. Richard SATCHWELL was rearrested immediately following the discovery. When charged with murder, he responded with chilling brevity, guilty or not guilty, guilty. But the story he told investigators would attempt to twist the narrative once more. He claimed that on the morning of the 20th of March 2017, Tina had suddenly attacked him with a chisel. In the struggle, he said, he accidentally strangled her using the belt of her own dressing gown. He recounted placing her body in a chest freezer in the garden shed before ultimately burying her beneath the stairs, folding her carefully, covering her with plastic, and topping the grave with concrete. Forensic evidence, however, told a different story. CCTV footage contradicted his account, showing him collecting social welfare payments from the Yoel post office around 11:10 a.m. on the day Tina disappeared, far from the location he claimed to be. Mobile phone location data further disproved his alibi. Investigators found the house cluttered and unkempt, with dog feces on the floor, and noted the suspiciously new construction beneath the stairs. Concrete of a different hue had been poured deliberately to seal Tina's remains, evidence of premeditation and concealment. Pathologists testified to the unusual positioning of Tina's body and the ligature found draped diagonally across her chest. Dr. Margaret Bolster described it as very unusual, suggesting the ligature was used to move the body. Heat-treated glass shards were found embedded in her remains, adding further evidence of trauma and a struggle that had remained hidden beneath the layers of domestic normalcy. Further examination revealed searches conducted on Richard's laptop the same day he reported Tina missing. He had researched quicklime, a substance used to accelerate decomposition. This action, paired with his prior inconsistent statements, painted a picture of deliberate planning rather than accidental death. The prosecution argued convincingly that Richard's 6-year campaign of deceit, his multiple stories, media appearances, and sale of Tina's belongings demonstrated a conscious effort to cover his tracks and manipulate public perception. The trial began in April 2025 at Dublin's Central Criminal Court, moved from Cork for logistical reasons. Richard, then 57, pleaded not guilty to the murder of his wife, despite the overwhelming evidence. His defense rested on the claim of self-defense, presenting the scenario of accidental death during a sudden attack, yet the evidence told a starkly different story. Every step, from the inconsistencies in his statements to the methodical concealment of Tina's body, pointed to witnesses recounted the controlling behavior Richard had exhibited over decades. Tina's half-sister, Lorraine Howard, testified to overhearing Tina express fear and restraint in her own home, confirming patterns of coercive control, financial irregularities, false stories about her disappearance, and efforts to erase her existence all reinforced the prosecution's narrative of deliberate murder. The defense attempted to paint Richard's actions as impulsive, arguing for a lesser charge of manslaughter, but the jury, after more than 9 hours of deliberation spread across 4 days, found the case overwhelming. Richard SATCHWELL was unanimously convicted of the murder of his wife on the 30th of May 2025. He showed no emotion as the verdict was read. On the 4th of June 2025, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, the mandatory penalty for murder in Ireland. The aftermath of the trial brought both closure and continued reflection. Tina's family, while relieved at the verdict, spoke of the portrayal of Tina during proceedings, emphasizing that it did not reflect the vibrant, loving, and gentle woman they had known. Her half-sister Sarah Howard called her precious, describing Tina as a kind, loving soul, devoted to family and her beloved animals. Her ashes were divided, one half placed with her grandmother Florence, the other with her brother Tom, ensuring that she would rest among those she loved. The discovery beneath the stairs, the meticulous planning, and the decades-long manipulation revealed a chilling truth. The danger Tina faced had been close, silent, and insidious. Richard's obsessive control had created an environment in which a loving, vivacious woman was trapped, ultimately meeting a tragic end within her own home. The crime itself was hidden in plain sight, a stark reminder that evil can sometimes reside in the most ordinary of places. Investigators, reflecting on the case, noted the extraordinary diligence required to uncover the truth. Years of careful forensic work, digital analysis, and attention to detail finally pierced the veil of deception. The case became a reference point in Ireland for understanding coercive control, domestic manipulation, and the lengths to which perpetrators will go to conceal their crimes. Tina's story, while ending in tragedy, serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to perseverance. The tireless work of Gardaí, forensic experts, and her family ensured that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, would eventually emerge. In a quiet town that had once whispered about her disappearance, Tina's memory now stands not as a victim lost to time, but as a symbol of resilience, the relentless pursuit of justice, and the stark reality of domestic abuse that can hide behind smiles in ordinary homes. And so, the house on Grattan Street, once a scene of concealment, became a monument to revelation. The stairs under which Tina SATCHWELL's remains lay were no longer ordinary. They became a reminder that justice, though delayed, is inexorable, that even in the face of meticulous deception, the truth will surface, and that every life, no matter how ordinary it may seem, carries a story worth telling, a story that, if ignored, can become a haunting testament to human cruelty. Tina SATCHWELL was gone, but she was no longer missing. Her story, though marked by betrayal and darkness, reached its final chapter in the courtroom through the meticulous work of investigators and in the hearts of those who loved her. Justice, delayed by 6 years of lies, was finally served. And yet, the memory of what had occurred within the walls of a quiet home in Youghal would linger, chilling, in the minds of all who heard her story, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying truths are hidden in plain sight.